So go ahead.
Well, whatever you feel like doing. I mean, well, we're going until 6, right? Is that how we're doing it?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess we can just start then and see.
Somebody else is joining us. Oh, it's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Just need like a couple of more minutes.
Okay.
It's working. We get to see you this
Well,
time.
you
Yay.
may lose me.
Yay.
I'm still using my old webcam, so you may lose me. So
Oh, okay.
Well, we have you now.
for now,
Michael, I love your animal posts on Facebook every day. I look forward to those. I really do. The
well, thank you.
endangered species, I do.
I really want to bring attention to this amidst the COVID-19 crisis because animals are neglected and
Yes.
They're being abused. And
Whoop. We've lost him.
Uh-oh.
We've lost his audio too.
Huh.
Well, he'll probably log back in.
Yeah.
Haven't put on lipstick in weeks. Wearing a mask outside, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard yesterday that lipstick sales are going to go down because people feel, why bother?
Yeah. Well, maybe
Yep.
they'll reduce the
Yep.
price, huh?
Mhm.
That would be nice. I read that Books A Million, you know, the bookstore. We don't have it in the city, but they have it at a lot of other places in the country. Has now started an order online and curbside pickup for books. I thought, gee, that's really great. Maybe they'll continue that when this is over and things open up. That gives them another revenue stream and kind of a way to compete a little bit with Amazon. Because you can order the book online and go and get it at the store, which is kind of cool.
But that's not new. That's not new because my bookstore here, Ursula by you, Q and Willow, they've been doing that. You order your book and then they'll have it ready for you. And then you just tell them, you know, you call them and they stick their hand out the door and there you go.
Barnes & Noble hasn't been doing that though. I thought it was, you know, Books A Million is a huge chain. And so I thought that was cool. I'm glad to hear that that store is doing it because that enables people to order online, which has always been just kind of like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and then it gets mailed to you and stuff. But to be able to do that and pick it up is really cool. Oh, Anna's joining us.
Hi,
Yay.
Anna.
Hey, Anna, how's it going?
Oh, we can't hear you.
And we had problems at the meeting too earlier this month. So hopefully it'll be better this time for you.
I hope we'll have to learn sign language.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Where's Colby? He can help you.
Get your son.
Yeah.
There he is.
Here we go. The Tech Meister.
I see a mute there, so maybe it's muted. A little red microphone with a, okay.
No, we can't hear you.
I love the Zoom. We did Mother's Day Zoom
With your
my
kids?
Yeah, it was really fun. It's nice. We did dinner together. Zoom dinner together.
That's good. Yeah, our family's having a Zoom dinner tomorrow.
That's nice.
So it's just, you have to just coordinate. Puerto Rico, Florida, Boston,
wow.
Connecticut.
Wow, that's fantastic. So many places. I mean, there's so much kind of cool new things coming out of all of this. With all the negative, there are a lot of new interesting things that are coming out of this, like Zoom. We can use for our meetings and include Anna, who lives kind of too far away to schlep in for meetings. And now that you're in touch with your family all over the world, you know, Maria, it's really great. It is.
I remember this lady who was from Syracuse. She said that she had been a member, but she moved away to Syracuse. I was just blown away.
Yeah, Charmaine. We haven't seen her in several years.
Wow, okay.
I think
But anyone who's moved away can come back via Zoom.
Yeah, definitely.
I think after not last year, but the last time RWA was in New York, the national conference was in New York. After that, she moved upstate.
Oh.
That was a while ago.
Several years ago, not last year then, but a few years ago then.
Yes.
Okay.
So I looked at the roster, and I think a lot of the members that we lost were people who were not necessarily interested in leaving the chapter, but they were interested in leaving national. So they did that, and therefore they had to leave the chapter. I think Kate Dunn might be one of those.
No, I'm going to reach out to John and Alice because I know they wanted to stay.
Yes,
but
John, I was very surprised to see he wasn't a member. Yes.
Yeah, they were having problems renewing.
So Kate Dunn is leaving?
She's left. We have to reach out to her and find out what her intentions are.
She was so active in the critique group.
Well, the critique group is not a part of the chapter anymore. They wanted to keep, they want to keep the critique group. Yeah. So they pulled it away from the chapter, so they're meeting on their own.
Okay.
So right now they're in the critique group is independent of the chapter.
Oh, okay. I remember hearing some words about that.
Oh, here we go. Who's that chat? I see chat.
I see. Yeah, I remember, that your audio wasn't working the last time.
Anna, you're going to have to call in again.
Why you didn't go into, you can go into Oh yeah, because she has a car or whatever, right?
Mike too, we've lost.
Yeah. Mama. Oh.
Is that?
I don't know.
Should be.
You want to go check?
Your alarm is better than mine.
Okay, it's going on 5:40. So we're going to start.
Maybe go over a little over in case you need any extra time, if you want to.
Sure.
We're starting a bit late. Yeah.
Okay. I want to welcome everyone to our revamped Author of the Month. We are basically using new technology because we are unable to meet in public. The May Author of the Month is Barbara James. Barbara James is a pen name for an author who lives in New York City, an avid romance reader, and Episcopal clergy woman. She became inspired to write her own novels. What an amazing journey it has been.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Ursula, and all the rest of the board that invited me to participate as this month's Author of the Month. I've been glad to do this. So in thinking about my whole journey as a writer, I guess the best way to think about it would be to talk about how I came to become a clergy woman who writes romance novels. And so, I like contemporary romance because I've always loved to think about the modern day challenges that people face in finding and building relationships. So when I chose to become a writer, I focused on writing in the contemporary period. And so the first novels I wrote, this would have been going back around 2017, but to sort of backtrack, I first became inspired to write, I'd say by the fall of 2016 was on my mind. I've been reading, as I said, as you mentioned, Ursula, for a long time. And so I first started writing sweet romances where there were some faith-based elements, but they weren't as crucial as they became when I moved into inspirational. So what happened is that I was in the ordination process, and I found this book written by an Episcopal clergywoman, and my mind was sort of like, psh, wow. I had never seen, a romance novel written by a clergywoman from my faith tradition, and I was really curious about it, and I love reading her books, especially because she really was on point with respect to understanding how it is that the faith-based questions might fit within our faith tradition. And as for the actual writing and switching into inspirational, I was inspired by a retreat that I would have been on very early in my ordination process. So I began the process in 2015 and was ordained in 2018. So that spring in March, we had a meeting, a retreat, like I mentioned, where we had this session where we were all invited to walk. We went into the room. We're invited, okay, are you partnered? Are you single? Different sections of the room. Questions. How do you imagine you would be challenged in your relationship, your marriage, partnership, if you were a minister or training? How would you imagine negotiating that if you were single? So all of a sudden, this question comes up, how to manage, negotiate your relationships in light of your ministry. And now, why would this be important? Well, think of the Me Too questions that have really, rocked our discussions in society over the past few years. The questions about clergy abuse. Now, we've had no problems, major ones, about clergy abuse as the Catholics have, that we're not Catholic, but still the questions come up sometimes, where clergy could be exploitive, or sometimes parishioners can exploit clergy. And so these questions of boundaries, relationships come up, but also, the challenges of a faith-based person in whatever way you negotiate it. And the key point there is that as Protestants, we're not required to be celibate. So you're open to date as you choose to, as you want to, and marry as you choose to, as you want to. So what might be the unique challenges in that regard? And so that retreat really opened me up to thinking about those questions, which I could then explore through my novels. And in terms of these sort of questions, I've been addressing them in my latest novels, the two that came out this past year, and also through my works in progress, the current ones I have. And so my characters are not yet ministers, but they're in the ordination process, similar to where I would have been a few years ago, or similar to the young people who were in the process with me back then, who were actually talking about the specific challenges that they were dealing with. Because number one, you can't date a parishioner, plain straight out. You just can't. You can't date a parishioner. But what about boundaries with parishioners? What about other clergy? What about people in your community? How would you negotiate that? And so that's what I was trying to do. And I have been, it's not just trying to, but I have been exploring through the recent books and the works in progress. And so future directions, although I like reading historicals, and I remember we talked about this at our meeting this past month with our guest speaker. I love historicals. I was a history major, but I don't see myself writing historicals because I think the contemporary has far more interesting things to think about and write about. And so that's where I am with respect to my journey in writing. And as for, books, Ursula asked, well, what are my top 5 favorite books growing up? I can't recall back that far, but I can think about books that I've been reading these past few years that I've enjoyed. I'll put them on our Facebook page. But in a nutshell, I can thank Toni Shiloh. She writes contemporary inspirationals. Milla Holt, she writes inspirationals with an international bent. As I was reading both of her books recently, she included these recipes, or if not recipes, but dishes. And I was like, wow, what's that? How do you make it? And I realized that she was discussing including dishes that I had heard of in a different fashion, but never knew anything about them. So it was a great exercise to try a recipe I read about in a romance novel. And then Pat Simmons, well-known contemporary inspirational writer. This new series that she started really drew me in because she is developing a series in which 3 sisters the caretakers for an elderly aunt with Alzheimer's, dementia. And they're each on their journeys towards their happily ever after. At the same time, they're caretaking for her. And the sad part of it is that we know at the end, the aunt is likely to die because of her dementia. So we're seeing, the arc of their happily ever after. At the same time, we're seeing the arc of her deterioration. And it drew me because, of the pastoral care issues, and also too because I have experience in elder care. And I was like, oh my goodness, yep, I can see what she's doing, what she's talking about. And in this story, she's drawing upon her own mother, not her mother's, but her grandmother's experience with dementia, when her grandmother was elderly and dying of old age. And then Amber Baldine, that was the author whose book I was talking about, the clergywoman who wrote a contemporary romance novel that I really enjoyed reading. It was called Not a Mistake. So it's not inspirational, although the themes might resonate. It was fascinating. So you have a recent graduate from seminary who always had a crush on one of her seminary professors. Her graduation, she got drunk, he got drunk, had a one-night stand. Lo and behold, she falls pregnant. And then how you negotiate that, with him discovering it, her discovering it, she's the new priest at her parish. How does she negotiate being a newly pregnant woman, single, not yet married? And to make matters even funnier, he's the diocese's and also the national church's ethics expert. They call him the priest buster, who busts priests for ethical violations. And here he's caught in his own ethical violation with a former student. But the good part of it was that everything happened after she graduated. So that's what really caught me in terms of the novel and reading it and saying, yep, she gets all of it. So I really enjoyed that. And so the question, when I want to be a writer as a child, funny you ask, because I always had this very active imagination. And I can't say I wrote stories, but I always had these stories in my head of characters. And I think it ties into the day where I feel like I'm always talking to my characters or observing them, because it seems like I always had these characters in my head. Even when I was a kid, they were little kids like me, or they were grown-ups, whatever they were doing, and I would follow them in my own mind and through their adventures. And I never wrote them down, but it really comes to me in today's world of me being a writer, because I've had those skills of imagination and awareness that I really appreciated as I look back at it. And wanted to become a writer. It's so funny, in terms of actual writing, when I became a young adult, I wanted to write, but nonfiction, because I always thought it would be a good way to make a living insofar as I could work from home. So this quarantining of being at home and not being able to go out to work, I'm like, oh, perfect. I've always loved that. I always did my best work at home, and the real work of going out into the world was sort of like, oh, no, I want to be at home. So it's not as much of a challenge for me. So being an academic writer, nonfiction writer, was what I had always aimed to be once I had the interest. And so being a romance writer is more about fun and enjoyment in ways that I'm lacking my creativity. And favorite authors, my current favorite has got to be Beverly Jenkins, because as I checked my e-reader, I think I must have samples or a full favorite. I can't imagine anybody else who would be for that reason. She writes a lot of African-American historicals as well as contemporaries, and I really liked her contemporary suspense series. They're just amazing. And actually, one of them was made into a movie this past year or so on Amazon, and the watch party on Twitter was just insane. All of us tweeting about the scenes from the movie, the things we saw and were imagining. So I really enjoyed that. And so do I like to read other genres? Yeah, I read widely. So right now, I'm reading an interesting book. It's called Uncommon Ground. Is written by Tim Keller. He's a megachurch pastor in Manhattan, actually, and John Nanasu, a law professor. And they're writing about contemporary faith in the modern world, how to negotiate that in terms of the greater public world and people of faith. And this author who wrote a piece for it, she is an Anglican clergywoman, so sort of like a cousin, so to speak, of Episcopalians. And she wrote this amazing essay about the writer's life. and what she likes about the writer's life. So, I mean, it ties into the wonder of writing, but she's writing for a specific audience because she's a clergyman who writes specifically what she calls popular theology, but I'm not within that context at all. But still, just how she got it, how she talked about why she writes and how she writes and how writing fits into her sense of self and how it grounds her in spirituality, which is mind-blowing. So I really enjoyed that. And then I also have some historical fiction in my e-reader, a book I got from the library this week. And I'm also reading Jane Austen's Emma. I never had to read it before, but I just saw the latest film adaptations, the one that came out this spring, and that's sent me down the rabbit hole of looking at the 2009 adaptation with Gwyneth Paltrow. And so I'm sort of like, well, I love the movie, I've got to read the book, so I've been reading that too. And as for being a morning or evening writer, morning, I mean, I'm not sure if any of you are on Twitter, but I'm on almost every day, several times a day. So I'm part of the 5 a.m. Writers Club, where we get up at 5 o'clock and we're ready to go. So that's what I was doing this morning. That's our hashtag, 5 a.m. Writers Club. And what do I have nearby when I'm writing? I have note paper for things that I want to keep track of and remember to answer these questions. As an example, I have to remind myself. And what do I drink when I'm writing? 5 a.m. Writers Club. I have my hot tea. I have a Brown Betty British teapot. I have my whole ritual. Boil the hot water, pour the water into the pot with the tea bag and let it steep for like 5 minutes. And I have to cut the lemon and squeeze it and, just drink it while I'm writing. And so that's me and my writing adventures. So I'd be happy if you have any questions or things you're interested about or curious about.
You have plans for books this year? Do you plan out what you're going to do a year ahead, or do you just do it as you go along?
Well, I'd say, so when I first began the series of the 2 books that came out this year, I had in mind 4 books. And so what I used to do with the first series was I wrote 1 book, sent it on to the world, published it, sort of next one, published it. But what I realized is that if you're writing a series, you really have to make sure you get all the details right from book to book. And I always noticed this when I was reading other books in series, the problems when I saw that there were inconsistencies. So what I've been doing then is, although I finished the next book in the series, it's going to be, I want it to be a 4-book series, but it's just impossible to keep track of those details. So I made it 2-book series. So I finished the first book. I am waiting to get it out because I want to make sure it coincides well with the current book. I'm working on my first draft of this latest book. Mm-hmm. And so I was part of the critique group last month regarding the first book, but I'm going to transition into the second book so that I can have more time to work with the critique group, especially since I'm nearing the end of my first draft. So to answer your question, I'm aiming to have them come out within the next year or so. And because the first book is further along, I can do some edits in light of the critiques last month, and then find my developmental editor and spend more time on the current one as I revise. So my goal is hopefully next year or so, but that's where I am.
Okay, Barbara, don't forget to tell us your website.
Yes. So barbarajames.net. I'll also post on our Facebook the page you have for me for today. I'll post the books I spoke about as well as my information. So that'll be there too. I'll make sure I post it. That was my project last night to create my little video and to also create my little, I guess it's what you call them? I forget what they're called. I don't have all the technical words for these things, but it was, I went to, I guess, people use them on like Canva to create little documents with images. I don't know what they're called, but I know how to do it. Not necessarily memes, but like if you, like for example, if you create a little digital file of all your little books and you have them all in a little something that you post.
Like a badge?
What they call it. not a badge, but it's sort of like a little poster. It looks like I guess that's what I would call it if you think of it in that sense, like a little poster. But they have a special word they use for it in techie speak. But I'm not a techie person, but I know how to do some of this stuff. So I created a little poster of the 5 books that I talked about that I really liked reading and which inspired me.
Oh, that's great.
Sounds like you're very focused.
How often do you
I can be.
update your website?
Do I update my website?
Your website.
How often do I update, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, about once a month because it's a blog. So about once a month I post something. So lately I've been posting about not only the books, but also posting about books I'm reading. And I think that's often a good means of occupying your time and also of updating your readers about what you're doing. So I've been posting about the books I've been reading. So I've gotten to the habit that when I read a book, I post a review to Goodreads, as well as to Amazon if it was a book that I bought from Amazon. And so I then post to my blog, why I like this book, why I wanted to read it, how it fits into what I'm writing, things of that nature. So about once a month, that's my goal. Sometimes more than that. So I'll post about today as an example. But yeah, so about once a month, that's my goal. Sometimes I miss, but I really want to make more of an effort to be doing something every month.
It's a good idea.
Oh, Anna asked, what's the best promotion that you think you do? I guess the best promotion that I think has worked for me have been to do like blog tours and to connect with writers in the subgenre who love to hear about what people are doing. So Toni Shiloh is an inspirational writer who does a fantastic job of asking writers to let her know what our latest books are. And so once per month, I mean, bless her, she can do this once per month. She gathers up all the news about latest releases and she posts them to her blog. She has a whole blog for it. And she has another blog too that's all part of that. But I don't know how she started. She must have been some sort of media person prior to becoming a writer because she's got people who post reviews. She's got the books she posts. It's just an amazing endeavor that she's undertaken. So I think that's probably one of the best ways to do it, to do blog tours and to connect with people who like to reach out to readers.
Blog tours, I haven't heard that term in a long time. They used to be wonderful, and then they stopped working. So I'd love to go back.
I think they're coming back. Everybody's home.
Yeah, exactly.
True. And the blog hop too. That was always fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, we could do a chapter summer blog hop.
Yes.
Really?
Actually, I saw one in I think it was Authors Guild, where somebody had posted that they did a 6-author blog hop, and they publicized it by having a meme that was a picture of each of the 6 authors, and they had like an interview. And so I was thinking about doing a 5 fast facts kind of, like 6 or 8 author blog hop with 5 questions for each author and 5 questions for one of their main characters. And posting, everybody posts that on their blog, and that might be a fun thing to do. I'm thinking about it when I get some time.
Yeah, exactly. But one I found that I really enjoyed. Sure. But one I found that I really enjoyed was that one blog host invited us to submit wedding announcements for our characters. So I did one for my recent novel, for Suzette. I imagined, that she and Bobby, the hero, were reading their wedding announcement. And in her case, there was a challenge in terms of the growing edges of her parents really trying to pressure her to move back to Massachusetts, but not stay in New York after her ordination. So there were some challenges there. And so with the wedding announcement, I had a brief scene between them where they're chuckling over the announcement, like who probably wrote it? Was it her mom or her dad? Because her mom was the one pressuring her to go back home to Massachusetts. So it was, in my mind, a funny inside joke of the characters joking about the wedding announcement that her parents drafted. And so I drafted it, you know, that her name is Suzette, that's Suzette Nagel, and Bobby Sills just got married, and she's a new priest in this Diocese of New York, and she's working up in the Upper East Side, and he's an accountant. And so it was just fun to draft it. It's sort of like a little nice epilogue for my characters. So that's the fun part of, I think, blog tours.
Yes, yes, it is. I actually did a front page of a newspaper from a small town where I have a series, you know, Pine Grove Press, and I did several stories of gossip of the town and, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You do that for readers, and people get a kick out of it.
Exactly. I enjoyed that. And I think about what we do for the current ones. I'd have to think about it some more for the future. But the fun part of it is that the first book took place, you know, whatever year, but the second book takes place the year before. And so I'm having some fun thinking about how the characters are connecting, you know, prior to the next hero's happily ever after. So I'm giving some hints about some things that are on his mind and things that he's experiencing, but the others don't know about it. And so they're sort of like curious about what's happening, but it'll all come together when his novel is, you know, in out there in the world. And so
it's fun. Yeah.
It's fun. And then also too, the second novel, I was inspired by a story, and I sort of like had this awareness. Maybe because I was writing romance novels, I could tell that two of the members of my cohort had an interest in each other, or at least know that he had an interest in her, but she had no clue. And I was like baffled by it because she had another boyfriend at the time. And I knew when he made his move, I wasn't there, but I could see a shift in the energy between them. And I was like, oh, something happened. And when I saw them, that would have been like May of 2018. 2018. But yeah, and I saw them November 2018. I heard they were already an item. I said, I knew it. You could see her face like, how did you know? I didn't say how I knew, but I remember just having this sense of heightened awareness, like there's something going on there. I don't know what, but something is happening. But I could always tell that he was very much interested in her, but she had a boyfriend. And so when they were moving towards the possibility of moving in together, he finally made us move, and he like dragged her away, more or less. I thought it was the cutest. So they inspired my second story.
It's fun. That's nice.
Yeah, it is. I love when inspiration comes from real life in whatever fashion. I mean, where else do we get our stories? You know, real life is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be creating a resource page eventually for the chapter website that will go under the members only section.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, what software do you use when you are writing?
Uh-huh.
And are there any writing books that you can recommend?
Sure. So I just use regular Microsoft Word when I'm writing. And with respect to my blog, I use Blogger, just a regular Blogger account that I pay for each year. And as for my graphics, things like for the images and whatnot, I like to use Shutterstock for like book covers. I like Adobe for making the videos. Donald Mass is one of my favorites. I'm not sure if you've heard of him,
Yes.
but he's really good in terms of helping writers understand how to really give our writing more of a punch, you know, emotionally, how to really get those character arcs developing. So he's one I like. And then there's this lady, I'm looking at one of the, Romancing the Beat. Have you all heard of that one, Romancing the Beat? I remember hearing about it sometime at a meeting a few years ago. So I have, you know, like this, you know, beat sheet. It never works. It's just a start. But, you know, it gets me thinking about the character arcs. But I'm such a pantser plotter that my characters talk to me, like I said, and so I just go along for the ride. Somebody on Twitter said the other day, it's like our characters say, okay, loser, we're going noveling. Come along for the ride with me. And I just follow. I just follow along. It's not my story, it's their story. They're just coming to me and they tell me things they want to say. So I go. But if you see me on Twitter at 5 a.m. in the morning, you'll see actually dialogues with my characters, you know, where they say, hey, what am I doing now? do I get my scene? Do I get my chapter? And I'm like, no, not yet, not yet. Or my characters doing their happy dance because I got all their feelings on paper and they liked it. So it's just fun. I'm just having fun. That's all I'm doing.
Does anyone have any other questions?
You write a lot at 5 a.m.?
Yeah, this morning I was up at 5 and I was done by around what, I forget what time, but I tend to write, if not in my calendar, then in my little journal that I keep for my writing. And so I was up at 5:30. And I was done by around 8 or so because I had to go grocery shopping. And that was this whole other adventure, going grocery shopping in this coronavirus business, because
Yes.
going to the bank, going to the post office, going to the drugstore, going supermarket shopping, everything takes so much longer. The post office, wait outside for like half an hour or more. Go to the bank, same thing. It's just crazy. So I've got it down to maybe 1 or 2 days, maybe only 1 day this week, and that's it. I'm paying things by mail. Not always, but I think I'm doing more, what you call it, e-billing, because I just want to avoid the post office. It's crazy. But yeah, so that's why I was doing this morning from like 5 to about 8, and then just start the day afterwards. I do my best thinking early in the morning.
Oh, Barbara, you have a message in the chat.
Oh yes, yeah, I go to sleep. Okay, so I'm a day person, like I said. So I'm usually asleep by around 9 or so, 9:10. I'm like, and so I'm, asleep by around 9, wake up at 4 or 5, and get writing, and then start the day, and then sleep and cook, bake, whatever. Exercise. They're gonna have to exercise too. It's like a little routine, right? Exercise, grocery shop, cook. Every day, something. Just like 5 things I do. This is quarantine. Like 5 things I do, and that's it. Every day, something. I'm like I have my own monastery or something. I have a little monastery in my house, and that's what I'm doing. Ten to midnight kids. You caught them up at 2 recently. Oh yeah, those moments I can be up at 2. Yeah, easily. I go to sleep and I wake up sort of like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. Oh, my character, I gotta write something down. It just happens. I just go with it.
Yeah, I found it very easy to be up at 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, watch 2.5 Men, watch Mom, watch Frasier, try and convince myself to go to sleep so I can get up, because I actually do have to log in for my day job.
Yeah, go to bed too early. I find I get up. I've been getting up for a while at 4, then it was 5, and this morning I actually slept until 6, which was really nice. But yeah, I don't want to get up that early.
I just do it normally. I don't even have an alarm clock. I just get up. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I know.
It just happens. I figure whatever it is, it works, and that's fine.
Yeah, no alarm clock.
No alarm clock. Exactly.
My brain is set.
The biorhythm. Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, I want to thank Barbara for being our author of the month.
And thank you all for attending and visiting with me. I love chatting with
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, and we look forward to seeing everyone at the next online meeting, which will be the first Saturday in June. That will be
June 6th.
Thanks, Maria. My
6th, yes.
machine runs very slow.
Yep, June 6th. Yep, I have it.
Great.
Okay. I'd like to wish everyone a good night, and we'll see you later.
Yes, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.